At the start of the 20th century, naval power was measured in steel and heavy guns above the water. Admiral Alfred von Tirpitz was busy building Germany's high seas fleet, a collection of massive, expensive battleships meant strictly for surface combat. He saw no role for submarines in that fleet. But Germany had a geographic problem. The Royal Navy could park its ships in the North Sea and blockade German ports. To break out of that trap, the military was forced to explore vehicles that could travel under the water. The first functional German-built submersibles, like the Forelle and the U-14 seen here, were highly experimental. They were cramped, primitive iron tubes. This diagram illustrates the fatal engineering flaw of these early boats, their courting kerosene engines. Kerosene was safer than gasoline, but it belched a thick, bright white exhaust plume that was visible for miles. The tactical advantage of a submarine relies on stealth. But its own engine acted as a giant arrow pointing right at the crew. The early U-boat was effectively a surface ship that could occasionally hide, but it couldn't launch an attack without giving away its position. To survive against the Royal Navy, Germany had to rethink propulsion entirely. They needed true stealth. Engineers eventually solved the smoke problem by switching to a dual system. They used diesel engines for fast surface cruising and switched to battery-powered electric motors for quiet, submerged operations. Commander Karl Dönitz recognized the lethal potential of these improved boats. He organized them into wolfpacks, groups that communicated by radio to hunt targets collectively. Engineers also bolted saddle tanks to the outside of the pressure hull. These external tanks carried extra diesel fuel, expanding the boat's range and allowing them to hunt deep into the Atlantic Ocean, far beyond the reach of land-based Allied aircraft. Their primary targets were massive merchant ship convoys, just like this one. The goal was to sink so many supply ships that the United Kingdom would be starved out of the war. The campaign operated on a massive industrial scale. To protect the fleet from Allied bombing raids between patrols, the Germans built enormous, heavily fortified concrete U-boat pens along the coast of France. But the Allies developed rapid countermeasures. They deployed high-frequency direction finding, or HFDF. This tracking system allowed Allied ships to calculate the location of a U-boat the moment it transmitted a radio signal to the Wolfpack. By 1943, advanced Allied radar and constant aircraft patrols made the surface lethal. U-boats were forced to stay entirely submerged during the day. Down there, their speed was halved and their electric batteries draining completely within a few hours. In May 1943, known as Black May, U-boat losses spiked catastrophically. The submarine could no longer operate as a surface raider. Survival now required a craft designed to live entirely underwater. The first attempt to fix this was the Schnorkel. It was a retractable breathing pipe that let the diesel engines run while the boat hid at periscope depth. But it was a brutal compromise. Rough waves would snap the intake valve shut, causing the engines to instantaneously suck massive volumes of air from the interior compartments. The sudden pressure drop routinely ruptured the crew's eardrums. A metal straw was not a permanent solution. True stealth required breaking the reliance on air-hungry diesel engines while submerged. This diagram shows the resulting architectural breakthrough, the Type 21 Electroboot. Instead of a single cylinder, it featured a unique figure-8 pressure hull. That wide lower lobe was dedicated entirely to storing massive banks of lead-acid batteries, drastically increasing submerged speed and endurance. To meet wartime demand, construction methods shifted. Prefabricated sections of the Electroboat were built inland, then shipped to the shipyards for rapid, modular assembly. You can see the physical result on the preserved Wilhelm Bauer. Gone are the bulky deck guns and flat tops. The hull is smooth and hydrodynamic, optimized for speed underwater rather than surface cruising. The Electroboat severed the final tie to the surface. It was no longer a surface raider that could dive. It was a vessel engineered to remain at depth indefinitely. Following the Second World War, West Germany integrated into NATO and resumed submarine development. They focused strictly on small, coastal defense vessels with extreme stealth capabilities. During the Cold War, they began building pressure hulls out of non-magnetic steel. This specialized alloy allowed the submarines to slip over magnetic sea mines and evade detection sensors without triggering an alarm. This diagram explains air-independent propulsion, or AIP. Hydrogen fuel cells combine stored hydrogen and oxygen to silently generate electricity and pure water. With no moving combustion engine, exhaust, or snorkel, a modern U-boat can remain submerged for weeks, effectively eliminating its surface profile. The modern Type 212 submarine uses this X-rudder design for extreme maneuverability in shallow coastal waters, while operating in total silence. Today, Germany is a leading global exporter of non-nuclear submarines. Variants of their technology, like the Type 209 and 214, currently serve in navies all over the world. The legacy of the U-boat has moved past its history of commerce raiding. Today, these vessels set the global standard for acoustic and magnetic stealth. From a primitive iron tube that gave away its own position to a silent ghost that never needs to surface, the history of the U-boat is a record of engineering thousands of tons of steel to effectively disappear.